Hello. Part 2 to F Deco's Vidar. Quintus coming out next. So cool your jets. And then I'll be doing part 4 to Gogeta. It's been a while since I've done Gogeta. So last time on What If Deku was Gundam Vidar. The heck? Anywho. So, Deku had just made Shoto hella weak in the knees. But, Deku, he's carrying her on his back when they get into class. And, like, the 1B students, they're all like, why are you carrying her? And he says, she can't walk. And they're like, why is that? And he says, I'm not legally obliged to share that information with y'all. Y'all can ask her, but don't ask me. And she says, none of your business. And then Kirishima, he nudges on one of the guys. And he says, he fucked her too hard. Like, they had sex too hard to where she can't walk. And he's like, nigga, she can't walk? Isn't she like the second strongest compared to him? And he says, yep. And I'm third. God. But, Deku, he kicks the door open to class. And as I was like, who are you? And why are you holding Miss Todoroki? He says, hey, teach. And he says, nigga, I have never taught you before. Explain who you are. Or are you a villain? And then I'll say, oh, that's Vidar if he were born as a natural human. And then it was Izumi? Yeah, Izumi? Or no. His mom. I'm pretty sure. Nope. But, he announces a sports festival. He says, alright, niggas, y'all got a week off. And Deku says, okay. And Deku, he heads down to, the school pool. And she says, put me in the water. And he says, alright. He puts her in the water. And she's, like, floating around and stuff. And she says, this is the only place where I can move around freely. And he says, yeah, I know. I wrecked you last night, didn't I? And she says, yeah, you win at everything. And he says, it's only natural. And she says, no, it isn't. You beat me in combat. You beat me in everything. I should be able to beat you in bed. And he says, impossible. I have infinite stamina. How do you beat infinite stamina? And she says, shit. He's right. And so she says, alright, go on someplace. I need to make a phone call. And she calls her sister. And she says, sister, so, you know, my boyfriend? And she says, yeah. Grim looking dude that can fuck anybody up in 0.5 seconds. That one. And she says, yeah. He can beat me in bed. He can beat me everywhere. How do I beat infinite stamina? And she says, it's infinite stamina. You do not beat it. And she says, hey, how about you, Mom, and call a couple of your friends, and we can all see if we can wear them down. Or no, she doesn't say anything about her mom. And she says, sure, but, you sure that's okay with him? And she says, he needs a challenge. Even though he loves me too much. And this is also a test to see if he loves me. She says, good. You satisfy him while also seeing if he loves you. Good strategy. And since he can hear all this, because he's only, like, in the hallway, he's just like, I love her. He walks in and he says, alright. He backflips into the pool. He says, yes, water. And then, like, he turns it back into how he normally looks. He's just swimming around like, this is great. And she says, yeah. Meet me in my dorm tonight at 7. And he says, alright. And be in your human form. And he says, alright. What for? And she says, you'll see when you get there. And he says, okay. Him silently grinning, because he knows what's gonna happen. And so, like, then the rest of the class comes, and, like, Deku, he was kissing Shota, and, like, he had hugged her, like, right when they had come in. Like, couples pool. Alright, we'll leave. He says, huh, what? No, I just gave her a hug. And I said, okay. And so, Deku, he's sitting in the deep end. And Shota, so is she. She pulled out his breeches. And he says, huh? Because he decided to go back to his uniform. He says, huh? She slides it in. He says, yes. And he starts playing Super Smash Bros. And, like, she accidentally lets out a moan. And they're like, huh? Are y'all two fucking? And she says, no, he hit me. And they say, how dare you hit a lady? And he says, what? She was being annoying. And I say, whatever. And, I'm gonna say Jiro, she walks by the deep end, and she sees that they actually are having sex. And she says, like, she bends down, whispers in his ear, and she says, if you slap me some, I won't say anything. He says, shit. And, like, she heard it too, and she was like, crap, I'm gonna have to share him. But, like, then he just squirts in Shota, and she's like, yes, I will bear this man's child. This is 18 plus. But, Jiro, she started playing Super Smash Bros. And, like, she too tight. That's all I can say. She too tight for the 13. She too tight. She too tight to where she bleed. Yep. But, anyhow, let's get to that night. So Deku, he comes into her room and like he sees like these like busty women like in their like mid-20s. He says, what's with all the ladies? And they say, we're here to get a piece of you. And all at the same time. And he says, huh? And they just straight up rip all of his clothes off of him. And he says, I didn't agree with this, but okay. So they all start giving him sloppy toppy. I'm contemplating whether they should give him a boob job or a blow job. You know what? They give him both. And then Shota, she says, do you really love me? And he says, yeah. You wouldn't be my girlfriend if I didn't. And he hugs her and he kisses her. And then he slaps her on a tip and he says, alright, you won't be walking for 3 days. And she says, huh? What? Boom! And she says, damn you. And he says, ha ha ha, I've stricken again. And like, he makes lasting cream for all of them. And he says, like an hour later, he says, ha ha ha, you'll never catch me. And you won't be able to walk, so you won't get out. Ha 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 ha. Creates some clothes, runs out the door, and he's like laughing maniacally. And they're all like, he's a keeper. And for him to still have that much energy, and her sister, she like leans over to her and she says, he truly does have infinite stamina. There were 30 of us, and we couldn't beat him. How? But anywho, sports festival. Race. This man, he lollygagging and he beat everybody. Cavalry battle. He just flies up in the air and just stay there. And Shota, she like makes an ice staircase all the way up to him. He comes down, and like he's holding his headband in his hand. He kisses her and hugs her, and he says, I won't let you win just because you're my girlfriend. And she says, oh, I know that. She tries to freeze him in ice. He neck chops her, takes the headband off of her head, puts them both in his hand, and he's holding her like she's a baby. Like, you know how we all hold children, like with our forearm resting underneath their butt for whatever reason, like as if our forearm is a chair for them, and we just have them like holding on to our shoulder or whatever. He basically has her doing that. He kisses her cheek, and he just stays up there for the rest of the time, and then like she wakes up where there's only like 4 seconds left, and she's like, huh? I slept through the whole thing? He says, no, I knocked you out for the whole thing. Kisses her on the lips, and like the camera zoomed in on him at like that exact moment, and so now everybody knows that they're dating. And he just says, let the world know. Hugs her. He floats her down, and he just says, alright, I'm ready for the battles. Shinzo, he on that bullshit, like, hey, y'all ain't nothing, y'all think you something just 'cause y'all got good quirks. And Deku, he says, I had to work to get to where I stand. I had to go through hell for it. So shut your whiny ass up. And they hear him saying all this, and they're like, nigga, you probably didn't go through nothing. And he just transforms into his human form, and they all say, wait, he's human? And he says, I was a slave for a good 14 to 15 years of my life. I know what hell's like. Now shut up, you insignificant bitch. And he just pulls out one of the guns from his side pockets and shoots him with it. Boom. And they're like, he shot him. And he says, don't worry, it's a rubber bullet. He wins the match. He just yawns. And like Shota, she still won't use her fire. Like, even though he's told her multiple times that she might get an edge in bed if she uses the fire. AKA, he'll let her win. And he won't make it to where she can't walk. By the way, if you can't make a chick not walk, you clearly failing something in life. Like, I would just say that. But, yeah. So, then Endeavor walks up to him. He punches him and he says, how dare you date my daughter? And like, he took the punch full on, and he says, well, for one, I made her not walk for 3 days. Oh yeah, by the way, you're gonna be a grandfather. So, what do you think the kid's name should be? And Endeavor EXE has crashed. And like, there was a camera on him for the entire thing, so they all heard that, and he said, oopsie. And they were like, what? And like, all of class 1A, all of class 1B, like, all of classes, they like immediately look at Shota, and like, she's blushing, and she says, what are you all looking at? And Deku, he laughs. And says, yeah, so what? I have a child. Not that big. And she says, just like you'd always tell people on television. And he says, what do you expect me to do? The camera loves me. And she says, not as much as I do. And he says, what was that, Shota? And she says, nothing. But Deku versus Shota, he says, alright, I'll go easy on you, honey. Or no, he says, I'll go easy on you, wifey. And she say, if you go easy on me, it'll be 60 women. He says, 30 wasn't enough? What makes you think 60 will? And she says, nothing. He says, use your fire. And she says, no, it's his. He walks up to her, hugs her, and he says, no, it's yours. It always and forever will be yours. Always keep that in mind, because the fire in your heart will always be what makes you you. And that quirk is not his. It's yours. So quit being a tsundere and get it through your skull. Get through your thick skull. And I tired. But anywho, she like blazes red with fire, and like her fire looks like a bunch of sakura leaf petals. It's like this big like hurricane of sakura leaf petals engulfs them, and he says, I love you. And she says, you know I have to beat you now. And he says, in your dreams. Touches her on the back of the neck, and she's like, no, not again. And like she's like conscious, slipping. And like she falls asleep, and like he catches her, and he says, I'll be taking my future wife. And they say, future wife? This nigga just claimed her. Like, he legit claimed this lady. I didn't know that was a thing that could be done. But, final match. Deku and Kirishima. Deku says, Kirishima, you my nigga, but W's mine. He says, I know that, but I've been working on something. And he says, Diamond is unbreakable! And he says, of course it is. Diamonds are breakable, though. Like, you ain't never seen one get cracked open before? And he basically goes into unbreakable. And he says, this is what I've been working on for the past 2 weeks. This will be the advent of my training. And he teleports behind him and he says, good job, but it won't be enough. Chops him on the back of the neck. And he says, you'll always be superior. I know that. But still, I had to try. He goes night-night and he says, nigga, you made me feel bad. How dare you? I'm not supposed to feel bad. How dare you? How dare you walk up into my place, contest me, and then make my ass feel bad for wiping the floor with your bitch ass? How dare you? And they're like, so is they friends or brothers or like, what the fuck? And he says, we're best friends. But this motherfucker always pulling some bullshit. But, this is where I'm gonna end it off. Even though I only did a sports festival in this one, I'm gonna go to sleep. Maybe watch some hentai, but mainly go to sleep. Peace.